When we talk about obesity, the conversation often centers around lifestyle, diet, exercise, and personal responsibility. But this narrative leaves out a crucial piece of the puzzle: biology. Specifically, genetics and epigenetics, which together shape how our bodies respond to food, stress, physical activity, and the environment from the very beginning of life. The reality is that some individuals are born with a greater predisposition to store fat, and for them, weight gain may occur more easily, even under similar lifestyle conditions. But it doesn't stop there. Environmental triggers such as stress, sleep deprivation, processed diets, or toxins can activate or suppress certain genes, further influencing how the body regulates weight over a lifetime. This layered complexity turns obesity into something far more intricate and far less controllable than society often assumes. Genetics account for an estimated 40 to 70% of an individual's likelihood of developing obesity. This does not mean that one's weight is predetermined, but it does mean that people start from very different biological baselines. Some individuals may have inherited variations in genes that influence appetite regulation, metabolism, fat storage, or how the brain responds to food cues and reward. For example, variants in the FTO gene, sometimes called the fat mass and obesity-associated gene, are linked to increased hunger, reduced satiety, and a preference for high-calorie foods. Individuals with these variants are not necessarily overeating because they lack discipline. They are biologically wired to feel hungrier and less full. In an environment flooded with highly palatable, energy-dense foods, this becomes a serious disadvantage. But the story deepens with epigenetics, the study of how behaviors and environmental exposures can turn genes on or off without altering the DNA sequence itself. These changes can affect how cells read genes and how the body functions over time. What's even more startling is that some of these changes can be passed on across generations. For instance, a pregnant mother's diet, stress levels, or exposure to pollutants can influence her child's metabolic programming, predisposing that child to weight gain or insulin resistance even before birth. In this way, the effects of poverty, malnutrition, or trauma can echo biologically through multiple generations, compounding the challenge of maintaining a healthy weight. There's a clear warning here. Blaming individuals for their weight without acknowledging genetic and epigenetic influences is not only scientifically inaccurate, it's cruel. We live in a culture that moralizes body size while ignoring the vast disparities in biological vulnerability. Some people are able to eat flexibly without gaining weight. Others gain rapidly even with moderate intake. Some lose weight easily with exercise. Others struggle for every pound. This doesn't mean that effort doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But the outcomes of that effort can differ dramatically depending on genetic background. Even within families, these differences are evident. Two siblings raised in the same environment, eating similar meals, may have vastly different body compositions due to variations in how they metabolize food or how their hunger hormones function. For one child, a bag of chips may be a minor indulgence. For another, it may trigger a cascade of cravings and fat storage driven by underlying biology. Again, this isn't about willpower. It's about inherited patterns that can be incredibly difficult to override. Importantly, genetic predisposition is not destiny. While some genes may raise the risk of obesity, they often do so in combination with environmental and behavioral factors. This is where epigenetics comes into play as both a challenge and an opportunity. Just as harmful environments can worsen gene expression, positive interventions, such as a nutritious diet, consistent sleep, regular movement, and stress reduction, can have powerful corrective effects. In other words, the right environment can help turn bad genes off, or at least minimize their influence. And these benefits may extend to future generations. Still, it's critical to acknowledge that for people with a strong genetic predisposition, the road is steeper and the margin for error is smaller. They may need to be more vigilant about food choices, more consistent with exercise, and more strategic about sleep and stress management. But even with perfect habits, their bodies may resist weight loss or revert to a higher set point weight. This reality can lead to frustration, self-blame, and despair, especially in a culture that celebrates rapid transformations and shames larger bodies. It can also lead to dangerous behaviors: yo-yo dieting, disordered eating, or extreme exercise regimens that do more harm than good. What society needs is a major shift in how we view obesity. It is not a simple outcome of poor choices. It is a complex, multifactorial condition with roots in genetics, epigenetics, psychology, environment, and behavior. This doesn't absolve people of responsibility, but it demands that we replace judgment with empathy and oversimplified advice with science-based strategies. For clinicians, this means personalized care that considers a patient's biological profile. For public health officials, it means creating food and lifestyle environments that support all bodies, not just those born with metabolic advantages. And for individuals, it means understanding that your struggle may not be your fault, and that progress should be measured by health, not just by the number on the scale. In the end, acknowledging genetic and epigenetic influences doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding the rules of the game you're playing. And for many people struggling with weight, that understanding can finally bring clarity, compassion, and a way forward that respects both biology and human dignity.